Hi there, and thank you for joining me today to talk about exchanges. My name is Carolyn Freed, and I've been managing international exchange programs for over 10 years at the Alberta Teachers Association. I hold a master's in communications and have been a participant myself in the exchange program many moons ago to beautiful Victoria, Australia. I want to offer you a seat on the exchange bus and for you to experience the incredible benefits that connecting and learning from and with another like-minded colleague can bring you and how it can impact your practice. So buckle up and hop on the exchange bus. Here are my contact details in case you have questions. I'll also have this slide up at the end of the presentation, but you can feel free to reach me as the Educator Exchange Programs Liaison, or as we call it, EAP, at the ATA. I can be reached via email at carolyn.freed@ata.ab.ca, and my direct number is 780-447-9404. Today's session on e-exchanges will touch on the following 4 areas. What exactly is an e-exchange? How can it impact my practice? Who is eligible? And where or how do I apply? Let's start by offering our land acknowledgement. The Alberta Teachers Association acknowledges Treaty 6 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, as well as the Métis. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples whose footsteps have marked these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. Our recognition of this land is an act of reconciliation and an expression of our gratitude to those whose territory we reside on or are visiting. The Educator Exchange Programs are a collaborative program with the Alberta Teachers Association and the Government of Alberta to provide professional development opportunities for teachers, school leaders, and district staff. E-exchanges were created in 2020 in response to the pandemic, when in-person exchanges had to be paused. I can honestly say that it's been an amazing process to watch this virtual program take shape and to allow professionals to reach out to each other, get rejuvenated, reflect, and take on new challenges. E-exchanges are a 6-week deep dive into a shared topic where you are matched with another like-minded individual. I like to think of e-exchange as getting a professional pen pal, but on steroids. You connect out of school time though. Before I get into the nuts and bolts of the exchange and answer questions like, do I need to get a sub? When and where do I communicate with my partner? And how do I apply? Those questions will be answered. In this presentation, I will outline the schedule of one of our past e-exchange sessions so that you'll get a better idea of how it all unfolds. This is what past participants of the last e-exchange had to say about their experience. They said it was a great way to get out of their comfort zone. It was super rewarding. They found it was really interesting to get a boots on ground aspect of another culture. Great new experience. They really felt a new appreciation and it was fulfilling. And not to mention, they felt they really had commonality with their colleague across the globe, because of course we're all dealing with similar things. So the connections, the enlightenment, the understandings, and the challenge were all things that people touched on. My analogy of an exchange is getting out of your kitchen to share recipes in a very experiential way. It really is the opposite of a Kentucky tour. An exchange is very much a local, boots on ground experience. And even though you may not be physically touching down in that country, because it's virtual, that doesn't mean it can't be amazing. These days, don't you find that you're always running to the next class, to the next meeting, taking the same steps, getting stuck in the same routine? Does it feel like every day is Groundhog Day? Well, an exchange is a great way to infuse excitement, reignite your passion, and revisit your why. It's a great way to get out of your kitchen and indeed out of your comfort zone to trade recipes, impact your practice, and connect with others. I would like you to become flies on the wall during this exchange process, and I would like to let you in on some of the participants' points of view. These are people that have just signed up for our Spanish e-exchange, and they are letting us know what motivated them, why they're doing it, and what they're hoping to gain from their exchange. So have a listen to these folks.
Excited to do this program. I am very close to the culture in Spain. My family is originally from Portugal, so we have a lot of summers that we've gone and traveled. So that connection and being a Spanish teacher has always been there for me. I've also had the opportunity to work with Spanish teachers within the program and had really awesome experiences and have learned a lot from them. And a few years ago, I had applied for a scholarship to Granada, and I did some master courses there on this scholarship and met a lot of teachers from the States and, from different parts of the world. We were like about 15. And so that for me was really an eye-opening experience because I came away with lots of different strategies and different perspectives on how different schools and systems run in that way. And some of the complexities of teaching. And so one of the things based on that positive experience, I wanted to apply for the scholarship, not for the scholarship, but for this exchange program, was to continue that work and sort of feeling the need for a challenge and just a new experience. I'm a travel bug myself, and so every summer I'm usually traveling and being stuck for 2 years and not going anywhere. I'm like, I need to connect with new people. So that was part of the reason, and just continuing to improve my teaching practice. I'm excited to have received an email today from one of my, well, from the person I will be working with, who's super excited. We're going to be exchanging numbers and starting our conversations. And so working with her, I hope to gain more perspective on, the education system there, but also to acquire strategies and for learning a second language related to subject areas and some of the complexities that come along with teaching children with special needs. That's sort of also my background too before I became a teacher, and so she's got similar things. So I'm hoping that we can come up with a passion project where we can work on that.
What made you, Nicole, apply for the program? What was interesting to you about, and what do you hope to learn from your exchange partner?
A lot of it for me was like comparing and contrasting like school systems, learning the school system in Spain. The master's program that I'll do in Spain next year is school-based, and we go into schools as well. So just kind of having somebody to learn what schools like there, how they organize it. She is very like inquiry based as well. And so we talk about like different things that she's doing in her classroom and then what it looks like here. And we've gotten down to like the nitty gritties of like kids that don't come to school with food and how we address it and how they address it. And like all those like little pieces, because our schools are also both very small and both very transient. And so we have a lot of needs at both our schools. So it's kind of interesting to see like how it's dealt with in both countries as well. So we've gotten into all of that.
Part of the exchange because I love to travel. Like Andrea, I would love to one day do an in-person exchange. And I had growing up, and I'm still friends with a pen pal I had in Spain that I met when I was 15. So to have the opportunity to meet another educator in Spain or Germany or around the world, it fascinates me. I love meeting new people, and I've always been curious about education around the world. So when I saw that it was an e-exchange, I thought, what a great opportunity, because my oldest daughter is in grade 12 and applying for university. It's not the best point in my family's life right now to leave and go do an exchange. So the e-exchange gave me the opportunity to do that while staying home. So I'm grateful for that.
Perfect. Thank you, Cheryl. And where, just out of curiosity, is your pen pal located in Spain?
He's in Santiago de Compostela, so he's, I think, about 4 hours northwest from where my current teacher is.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
it's coincidental that you say pen pal because that's how I've been explaining the e-exchange to some people. It's like a virtual pen pal that we're giving you. So it will be really interesting for you to go on this journey, and I think see what this pen pal relationship with your new partner will bring for you.
For sure, me too.
So welcome, Cheryl. You've heard from a few individuals now why they've decided to hop off the fence and apply for an exchange. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about what to explore on your e-exchange, and that's a very individual thing. As I mentioned, e-exchanges are a 6-week period of online collaborations. They occur outside of classroom hours, where you connect with another teacher, school leader, or district staff member, and you choose your own adventure. You are matched according to the topic that you want to explore. So have a think about what aspect of your practice you are passionate about. What do you want to explore deeper and expand on? Maybe you want to see how inclusion unfolds elsewhere. Maybe you want to see how another school jurisdiction approaches instructional leadership. Maybe you're interested in student wellness right now. Maybe it's teacher wellness right now. Maybe you want to see how another country navigates the pandemic in terms of education. You are the one that determines the wondering. You include that in your application, and the Educator Exchange Programs, or EAP, finds you and matches you with a similar individual. It really does give you that bird's eye view to network with like-minded colleagues globally. So for example, let's talk about the Australia e-exchange program. And the exchange program structure will be very similar for all of our other countries. So applications were received over the summer, July, August, and into September. And in September, I conducted interviews. So the matching took place in September. All the Albertans were offered a placement, and those placements were confirmed in early October. So they started communications with their exchange partner on October 25th. We launched a launch meeting where we had a cohort meeting of everyone present. So that included the Australian applicants, the Australian coordinators, the Alberta applicants, and myself. So it was a really nice big meeting, and it really did become a cohort. So we hold these meetings, both orientation and debrief, as well as a midpoint meeting all together to kind of bookend the entire 6-week period. So I'd like to take you along and just show you throughout the e-exchange with Australia how it unfolded. So here I took a snap of one of our meetings, one of our cohort meetings, and we are sharing some of our learnings. And in the next slides, I will let some of our participants speak for themselves, because I think this fly on the wall look at exchanges could really help you decide if you want to jump off the fence and apply for this program. Let's introduce you for the next few slides to the Australia e-exchange. Tracy Davies, the coordinator from New South Wales, is speaking to our cohort at one of our orientation meetings that we hold with all the participants. So she's going over some of the resources that we give you, and it's a really useful guide to sort of kickstart the conversations that you're going to undertake with your exchange partner. So have a listen.
You can use this, you can choose not to use it. We just thought, let's put something down so that when you get together every week, or maybe a few times a week, you've got kind of some path to focus on for that week. Week one, we've kind of just indicate, get to know each other, share hobbies, interests. It's probably the most fun bit. And some people last round said, we never really got off that. You know, it just kept going. And of course, it morphed into professional as well. But yeah, week one, just get to know each other. From week 2, we've kind of just said, look, start delving into the schools and systems. Week 3, start refining your focus area. What are you going to really look at? It's probably been emerging as part of your application and part of your discussions. Week 4 and 5, we've got a few more little focus questions suggested as you reflect and you know, on your own practice. What might outcomes be? And as week 6 comes along, you know, you're finalizing your topics and your discussions. And it goes so quickly, we thought, why not just provide a couple of pages with these sort of a few guiding questions and a few notes. So there you go.
With our Australia e-exchange, just as all of our other e-exchanges do, they aim to provide professional development, to compare and contrast systems, to allow teachers and school leaders to reflect and enhance their practice, and to create a shared focus for independent and collaborative research. In Australia, they did create a brief report. That isn't an expectation here in Alberta, although you would be very welcome to help and contribute to this report if you wish. Broadly, their topics fell into 4 areas. So we found that about a quarter of the folks that signed up wanted to investigate more leadership topics, the other quarter, curriculum, the other quarter, well-being, and the final quarter concentrated on culture. At our debrief meetings, when we invite all the Australia participants, the Australian coordinators, myself and all of the Alberta participants, we really want to dig into how the e-exchange impacted your own practice. So we have breakout rooms, we have the group talk about that. So this was within our group of 20 people that were matched in fall of 2021. And this is just a snippet of one of our participants and what her takeaway was.
We then moved on to the question, how will you use what you've learned moving forward? Obviously, resources were shared, ideas were shared that either consolidated what we were doing already as educators or gave us a new perspective about what we were doing. It also gave us some ideas about how to make change, so learning from one another and saying, hey, that's working really well, that's the solution to this problem I've been having, or vice versa. I think as well that it has just really, at least on a personal note, but I got the feeling from the rest of the group, is that it's, you know, kind of really reinvigorated our passion for this job and for what we're doing. And it has been a really hard year. It's been a hard 2 years for everybody. For the Australian teachers, this was kind of our first real go at lockdown and COVID, and it was bloody hard. But it was nice to finish off the year in this way with this rich friendship, but this also kind of interesting passion project, I suppose that it is. I'm you know, personally coming to the end of my 4th year of teaching and probably was getting a little too comfortable, and it's really, you know, reminded me of what we're doing and why we're doing it. So I want to thank Elle for that, but to thank the program as a whole, and I think that the others in my group would echo that sentiment too.
Some of the reports that the Australian and the Alberta pairings collaborated on and created together were things like performing arts in rural schools, the challenges that teachers face with student mental health, instructional leadership in distance education, women in leadership, leading professional learning in maths and numeracy, and creating a positive school culture. That's just a little sampling of some of the things that they created. As we wrapped up our session for the e-exchange to Australia, we had participants just explain what it has meant to them to participate in the e-exchange. Have a listen.
Thank you very much for allowing me to be part of the program. I've learned plenty of stuff to invest in. The matching was great too. So like everyone else said, I'm sure you're going to get lots of thanks. But personally, from our family, thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Okay, so by now you're wondering, this is interesting. Where can I go? Virtually, of course. Our opportunities are with our partnerships in Australia, in Iceland, 2 areas in Spain, and in Germany. And I'll just reiterate here because I always get these questions. There's no need to speak Icelandic. There's no need to speak German. No need to speak Spanish because your counterpart is fully fluent in English. So your language of communication will be in English. And if you can speak Australian, put that down on your application because that's a bonus. If you do speak another language, do let us know because oftentimes, especially in our European countries, they may be a French as a second language teacher. They may be a second language teacher, an ELL teacher. So please put down if you wish any other languages that you do speak. So in 2021, we had 98 pairings. That is a lot. So these Alberta participants came from small towns, they came from big cities. Some of them were remote teachers, some of them phys ed teachers, some of them district consultants, principals. What they all had in common was a love of learning, the desire to connect, and to challenge themselves. Your next question might be, am I eligible to apply? This is what you need to be able to apply for the e-exchange. You have to hold a permanent teaching certificate. You have to have a permanent teaching position. You must also have approval of your principal and district. If you are a principal yourself, then we outline the process to get your district approval. You should be a Canadian citizen. Part-time teachers can also apply for the e-exchange, and typically 5 years teaching experience is required, but you can check with your district. Some districts won't require the full 5 years before applying. Now you're wondering, okay, I'm ready to move on to the next step. What next? Broadly, here are the steps to be able to apply and the process that you'll go through. First of all, you'll need to go online to download our application. The e-exchange application is available at teachers.ab.ca. What you need to do is just put in the search box Teacher Exchange, and that will get you to the right section of the website. Alternatively, we may be able to attach the application directly into the schedule for teachers' conventions, so it may very well be at your fingertips. So have a look for the attachments that go along with this session. Next, once you submit your application, there's an interview process and a matching process. Shortly thereafter, the e-exchange will begin. Let's just dive into the steps a little bit further. So once you've downloaded the application or clicked on the attachment, you will be able to see that the first page allows you to rank your choices. So that's an important piece of your application. You'll want to determine if you're only going to put down one choice. I recommend that you do rank them 1 through 6. We do have possibilities to match you within Canada or even within Alberta, so do rank that as well, and we'll try our best to get you matched to the destination that you prefer. Then you need to fill in some of your school details, personal and district details. We also very much recommend that you include a headshot of yourself. This will be shared as part of the application that goes not only to the other school district, but it will go into the hands of the participant who will be looking at your application to consider. In section B of the e-exchange application, we ask you for a little bit more information. So what aspects of the education system do you want to investigate? You can choose, whatever your passion project is. Is it more about inclusion that you want to explore? Is it leadership development? Is it STEM? All of those things. So which ones would you pick as your top? So I wouldn't just put one topic of focus. If you can put some subtopics that interest you as well, the more information, the better. What are your career goals and your career interests? That's an important paragraph to write as well. That gives us as coordinators just a better sense of what you're all about and what makes you tick. In this section of the application for eXchange, we ask you to write a summary. It's a little profile of yourself. So it's almost as though you are writing a letter to your future exchange partner. So we ask you to personalize it, to put in some of your hobbies and personal interests in there, just to give us a real idea and sense of who you are, what makes you tick, and what you're hoping to explore on this journey of exchange. So it really does help if you personalize it and put a bit of effort into this section. On your application, you might be struggling as to how to rank the areas where you want to be matched. Not to worry. Do it as you see fit. It can change as we go along, and you can certainly feel welcome to apply for more than one eXchange in a school year. We had Tanya, who did one in the fall of 2021 to Australia, and a second one in 2022 with Spain. So we'll hear from her on how that has been, why she did that, and also some communication tips that she'd like to pass on to you as a future participant during this exchange. Maybe Tanya, could I have you go next and introduce yourself, and especially why you're here for round number 2. You're back to back. You just finished up in December. You must be exhausted. So I'll let you take it away. But Tanya, let us know.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm Tanya, and my dog's just going crazy because someone's at the door. So sorry about that. Can you still hear me fine, or? Okay. Okay. So yeah, so this is my second round, and I guess my initial reason was kind of like Sandra was saying, like I like to travel as well, and knowing that that's not possible right now, it was like I really just crave meeting other cultures, meeting someone from another country, and so that was my initial sort of motivation. And then a lot of it has to do with my job. Sorry, I should have told you that first. So my background is actually in languages. So I started teaching in French immersion to begin with, and then ended up teaching in a bilingual program for German. And so I've always been in languages, and now I'm in a role of a consultant for second languages. So I support all of our bilingual programs, and one of those programs is Spanish. And so I believe my exchange partner is in a similar position as me in terms of her role. So I'm really looking forward to hearing about language programming and how do they do that in Spain, and how do they support their teachers, and how do they promote the programming, and sort of all those aspects, sort of the bigger picture, I guess, of language education, and how do we make it better. So really looking for, new ideas, new perspectives, new ways of doing things, really comparing and contrasting our two systems. And yeah, I guess that was my whole thing about. So my last one was Australia, which was wonderful, but of course it's English. So I was looking for, like, I wanted something with another language as well. And so that's why Spain was my other choice this year. Yeah, so I'm really excited to start this second round, and I have already connected with my partner as well. We've mostly just been exchanging very much about social kinds of things. Like, she sent me pictures of Christmas in her city, and so just more informal kind of stuff. Nothing about education yet, but it's been fun nonetheless.
Perfect. And did you want to maybe just expand a little bit on what it was like for you in your first round of exchanges when we matched you with an Australian teacher? How did it unfold for you?
Yeah, it was really great. Like, the teacher that I worked with was also a language teacher. So, and that was what probably one of the best things is how well I found myself matched. Like, the person I was with had very similar sort of struggles and questions, but then we could exchange and sort of say, well, how do you handle that? Well, I do it this way. What about you? And just, again, like, really contrasting and comparing, and then learning from each other, and just kind of saying, like, brainstorming a lot too. And like, there's lots of things there that they were doing that I'd never heard of before. So it was like, well, I wonder how I could apply that to our division. And so there's a lot of great exchange of ideas and information. Yeah, and it was just fun. Like, it was just fun to connect on a social level as well, and exchange photos of where we lived and what it was like. And so, yeah, it was really good.
And how often, Tanya, did you find you communicated with your partner? Did it vary?
Yeah, we ended up doing like WhatsApp kind of whenever. Like, so I would have her WhatsApp, and we'd sometimes just, send a snapshot. Oh, I was whatever in Calgary this weekend and in the mountains or something, and I'd send her pictures. And then once a week, because Australia was a little trickier with the time change, we found it really hard to to like match our time so that we weren't in bed at the same time. So yeah, so we ended up just once a week we connected, but then we would usually talk for almost 2 hours. So it was a longer time, but we would connect once a week on the weekend.
Let's fast forward a few days. You've listened to this session, you've taken down some notes, you've said to yourself, yeah, I could really do this. So you've taken the time to fill out your application to WOW, the overseas school district, and you've gotten your signatures, and now you need to know when to submit it. The short answer is there is no formal deadline. The long answer is our programs are going to start in April, May, and June for all of our countries, so you need to get your application in as soon as possible. So as we near the end of this presentation, you may well have some questions. Here are some of the frequently asked questions that I'll address here. And if your question hasn't been answered, please feel free to reach out to me via email. My contact details will be in the last slide of this presentation. So one of the questions I get frequently is, when do I communicate with my exchange partner? That'll depend which country you're placed in, the time difference, and the frequency with how often you wish to communicate with your partner. As a rule of thumb, we recommend 1 to 2 good communications a week, with one of them being a video chat. In Europe, WhatsApp is used a lot. You may find it easy to use FaceTime. You may want to schedule a Zoom with your partner. It's all up to you. So in terms of the platform you use, that's a discussion with your exchange partner, whichever works best for the two of you. What are your chances of actually getting a match? Again, that depends on who has applied on the other side, but all of our applicants that have applied for the e-exchange have had a placement. So we're able to find quite closely a match for you according to the project you want to do. It may not be an exact grade match, but we match you according to your interests. Some teachers, especially primary teachers, ask if they can involve their classroom in a project. The answer is yes, go for it. First, though, do consult with your principal to make sure that you are following all FOIP and privacy restrictions so that you can do that. One of our e-exchanges decided to do a day in my life between the students of their classes, which was really interesting. And finally, does the e-exchange require any formal class time? No, it does not. This all occurs outside of class hours, unless you do decide to do a classroom project, in which case you will be getting approvals from your principal. So no class time required. It is what you choose to do outside of your classroom hours. As I wrap up today's session, I want to just reiterate the analogy of exchanges as a school bus. It is a chance for you to hop along and learn from each other and with each other, and to chase what makes you feel alive. There are so many takeaways from the pandemic that we've been going through, and despite all the disruptions and despite all the uncertainties, this isn't the time to retreat. I think this is the time to show that collaboration and embarking on these journeys will lead us to a better future, and a better future for our education systems. I believe that this is the time to lean into professional challenges and to chase what makes us feel alive. So this picture of this school bus is actually from an Instagrammer named Wandering Bus Dude. And it's not that I always take life advice from Instagrammers named Wandering Bus Dude, but inspiration can be found all around us. He's a fellow that left New York's Wall Street to wander through North America in his converted school bus. So many of his musings on happiness and what inspires you is so applicable to exchanges. It's an important reminder to infuse the things into your life that rejuvenate and connect us. So take that invitation, hop on the school bus, and have an e-exchange impact your practice. Thanks so much for your time and for joining me on this information session for e-exchange. I hope to see your application soon and to let me help you chase what makes you feel alive. Thank you very much.